all the wealthiest people, the whole idea or adage of cash is king is kind of an old like wise tale. Like cash is not king. I think inflation right now is showing that if you have your money in cash, you're in trouble. If you're 45 years old right now and you've gone through two cycles of this and you lost, you experienced, you got out of college and and then you experienced the dot-com bubble and then you had the recession in 08, 09, and now you're in this position, you're like, oh boy, here we go again. Like, hey, what's going on, Cashflow hackers? It's Chris and Cole with Life 180 and super excited to be here today. Hey, Cole. It's the first time I think I've said Chris and Cole with Life 180.
That is like a dream come true right there. I've been waiting for that. In the last video, I got to say, "Hey, this is Cole from Life 180." now you just said, "Hey, this is Chris and Cole from Life." I feel like I've arrived. I feel like I've arrived.
Yeah, man. So it is early for me. Cole and I are waking up early today to bring you this valuable content. I am apparently the greatest dad in the world, according to my kids, which is awesome. That matters more than anything, I suppose. But it is 6 a.m. where I am.
And I'm the biggest sellout in the world.
There you go. And this guy's in the Bahamas, closing deals, making things happen in his crypto business. It's pretty awesome. So we wanted to hop on here. Speaking of crypto, we've been talking a lot about real estate, a lot about cash flow, and wanted to talk about ultimately how you can set up your own personal tax-free bank. And there's a lot. There's a lot of opinions out there, I think, on YouTube, on the internet. You can go look up blogs and like all over the place. Tons of opinions on kind of how you should structure your personal finances, what vehicles to invest in, what vehicles to save in, and so on and so forth. And I'm a huge believer, this is a huge like passion point for me, is how you design your life financially, how you like strategically kind of I guess build your life with the products and philosophically from a savings and then investing and speculation and like all these different kind of components that go into like different risks associated with investment, so to speak, and when to take those risks and when to kind of play it safe and kind of how to structure it all. That's going to make the difference between whether you succeed and reach your goals and objectives or whether you fail. And I think the conversation of how to kind of implement and construct your own personal tax-free bank is a really important one that I think what I've learned over the years when we share this with people, when the light bulb goes off for people, or goes on, I guess, for people, right? When it goes off, that's
it's usually off.
when it goes on for people, they're like, oh my gosh, where's this been my whole life? And like, how come I've never heard about this before? And like all those kinds of things. So, so it's a really fun topic. So Cole, talk to me, because if you guys don't know, Cole is an authorized infinite banking practitioner, right? Did I say that right?
Nailed it.
Yes.
Yeah, you couldn't say it wrong. Cole's anything, and I'd be just sure.
Yes.
Go with that.
Exactly.
Right? Infinite banking. Yeah.
Yeah. So Cole knows this infinite banking stuff inside and out. He's been mentored directly by the Nelson Nash Institute. He's gone through that whole stuff, so he is a wealth of knowledge with this stuff. I'd like to think I'm pretty good too, but this guy's like actually gone through the training with those guys. And so
I'm hanging out with you for a reason. I'll put it that way. If I'm the smartest guy in the room, I'm in the wrong room. I know that.
So I'm really curious, Cole. Like, I'd love to hear your kind of take on the banking side, so I can drink some coffee here.
Yeah, man. It's the first thing that comes to mind when I think about a tax-free bank is just kind of the word bank. Let's just talk about that for a second. I mean, we have an understanding, and everyone, you have an understanding, viewers have an understanding, Life 180 subscribers have an understanding of the idea of tax. Okay, yeah. So great. We relate to tax. We relate to tax more than we want to, and we relate to banks. But the context of what we're talking about, people in the infinite banking community are talking about, or people are talking about, be your own banker. It's not really that relatable when you just say that. And, it confuses the mind. And we know that what a confused mind does is it says no. So I'm really trying to be, in these conversations, very direct and relatable as to kind of what we mean by a bank. I mean, a lot of people kind of look at it at a high level and they just kind of instantly shut down and they don't relate to it due to the fact that they think, well, how am I ever going to be Wells Fargo? How can I be Citibank? How do I create that structure? It sounds sketchy, shady. Is it gray area? Is it compliant? Is the government coming after me? No, I mean, let's unpack what we mean by bank first off. So bank, the idea of bank is a warehouse of capital. It's a place to store something. If you think of the word bank outside of the context of, say, a place where you deposit money or get loans or get mortgages, and you look at it as kind of like a warehouse of something, a storage facility of something.
Yeah.
You know, where do you put something? You know, when I was a kid, I wanted a bank of candy. I loved candy when I was a kid. I wanted a bank of candy. As an adult, what do I want? I want a bank of capital, right? So where did I want to store my candy? Well, I kind of like hid it in a shoebox under my bed. And where did I want a bank of money? So really, at the end of the day, what it comes down to is, you know, what do you want your bank to look like? What do you want your bank of capital really to do? And ultimately, let's just make it really super simple that we're talking about properly designed whole life insurance. Whole life insurance is the best place to, when you critically measure it side by side, comparable, option A, B, C, D, all the way down to Z. When you mathematically look at banking your capital in a whole life insurance contract, you can't compare it to what we kind of consider to be a traditional bank.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, like, so in the book Cashflow Hacking, we're calling it a personal reserve of money, right? Like that's the biggest thing is like everybody needs a reserve of capital that you have access to in case of emergency or opportunity, right? Like that is like all the wealthiest people, the whole idea or adage of cash is king is kind of an old like wise tale, like cash is not king. I think inflation right now is showing that if you have your money in cash, you're in trouble. But access to cash, access to capital is king. Like liquidity is king, right? Control is king. Like those are the things that are really gonna like move the needle in your life and help catapult the results in your life forward. And what I love about when you utilize whole life insurance and you think about it as a personal reserve, I don't even like to think of it as a banking alternative because like, I mean, yeah, we use that term a lot and it works, it fits, it definitely can play that function. But like, look at it as a personal reserve of capital that's there for you, that like from a design, it's the foundation of your whole life financially, right? Like if you look at it like that, and that reserve is kind of like your bunker that protects you in case of anything that's going to happen in your world. And it opens up a world of opportunity that if you don't have it, you're never going to be able to tap into. And so what I love about it, think about it this way, and this is just as you were talking, it was going through my head, is the two greatest like eroders of wealth for the middle class, and the two greatest things that are transferring wealth from the middle class to the wealthy are inflation and taxes, period, right? And so when you have your money in traditional savings vehicles like CDs, savings accounts, those low yielding, safe guaranteed accounts that have any sort of liquidity to them, you're losing to inflation. And what measly returns that you do get on them are taxed. And so therefore the performance of them are reduced even more, right? And so like the thing I love about whole life insurance is yes, it's a system, you gotta play into it long term, but it's the only financial vehicle you're gonna be able to put your money in to get your dollars to do multiple jobs for you. And you're going to be able to, you know, kind of pay the piper, get the taxes out of the way, you know, put it in a controlled environment that you understand, that you can measure and you can calculate, and you can go from there. And then once you have that done, it's going to grow on a tax favorable basis for the rest of your life, right? And so think about that. Like, why would you not want that? Everybody I know wants that. And I was thinking about this the other day. Like, one of the biggest reasons that people are failing with their money is because they have their goal set, their objective set at this date that's too far out in the future, and you can't measure or analyze what needs to happen to be successful because we don't know what the environment's going to look like, right? We don't know what the world's going to look like 30 years from now. Hell, we didn't know 40 years from ago in 1980. Nobody would have guessed we would be right here with Biden as president in this world.
You know, and that's the thing that you're saying right there that makes so much sense to me about whole life insurance as a bank is because for 250 years in Canada since 1847, it's done one thing. You can predict more than any other financial bucket or financial product what it's going to do. It has done what it has said and has been designed to do for 250 years.
100%.
That's enough time for me to trust that vehicle as a, as a banking. So you said something really interesting about long term. You said the idea of long term. Now, when people think about whole life insurance as a banking function in their life, a warehouse of capital and then you talked about liquidity. Now, what is long term? That's my question. What kind of define long term as it relates to controlling the banking function or putting your capital, your cash, dare I say it? Actually, just a really quick story. I'm in Bahamas right now.
Yeah.
And I went and got some cash because they take US dollars here.
Yeah.
And I got like, a couple $1,000s in cash. And I'm like literally looking at this. I haven't used this cash thing. And I'm looking at it and I'm going, it already kind of, I remember at one time when I had it, I felt powerful. Now I'm holding it and I'm like, I don't feel so powerful anymore. I kind of feel the opposite.
That's totally.
Anyway, what's long term? Talk to us about. What is this idea of long term?
Yeah, so I look at long. So like everybody, like I guess Wall Street, so to speak, would get you to think that long term is buy and hold. Like start investing when you're in your 20s and buy and hold. Mm-hmm. Just leave your money in the markets and let it ride up and down for 35 years until you retire, 45 years until you retire potentially, right? Mm-hmm. So to me, long term, I look at the cycles of the economy, right? So to me, a cycle is long term, right? Like
how long is that?
So, what is a boom and a bust market, right? Like and this is like so 2009, right? So we had 2000, the dot-com bubble, and then it boomed, and then in 2009, 2008, we had a bust, so that was 8 years, and now we're going 12 years, and you can see every 8 to 12 years typically is the boom bust cycle. So that is to me what long term is, and so and I do a Life 180 pyramid video talk that I kind of go through structure of this. And it's those down times, those down cycles, right? The downward spike in the cycle, that is where all the opportunity is created. That's where most of the millionaires in this world are created. And so you can either be positioned to thrive and capitalize in those markets, or you can be positioned to suffer like 95 to 97% of all the other people in this world. And so what we're talking about is building a personal reserve of capital that will beat inflation, that will give tax advantages, that will help you kind of slowly, steadily increase your financial position during the years, coming up to the downward spikes, right? And you need to make sure there are certain things in place during that time. And if you need to talk about that, just go down below, click on a link, get on the phone with somebody, we'll talk to you, we'll walk you through it. But the bottom line is that, positioning yourself for those downward spikes, that's where you're going to elevate your life. That's where you're going to catapult the results forward in your life so much faster. Because here's the deal. If we all have, let's say, 4 to 5 cycles in our life that we're going to live through during our working productive years, right? And so if we have that, all it takes is not being ready for 1 or 2 of those times and getting kicked in the teeth and losing and having to start over. All of a sudden our 40-year time frame for retirement planning gets knocked down to 30 years, gets knocked down to 20 years. And all of a sudden that's really hard to accomplish. So if you try
getting kicked right in the opportunity costs.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you try to solve, like what is the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different result. So like if you're 45 years old right now and you've gone through 2 cycles of this and you lost, you got out of college and then you experienced the dot-com bubble, and then you had the recession in 2008, 2009, and now you're in this position, you're like, oh boy, here we go again. Like you're either gonna suffer immensely and never reach your goals, or you're going to be able to put yourself in a position where you can capitalize on this. And I got news for you. Whether you've been kicked in the opportunity cost, or whether you've been, feel like you're doing well, no matter where you are right now, there are ways. That's what cash flow hacking is all about. That's what we're trying to teach people, is there are ways that you can get to where you want to go on a predictable basis, and you can compress the time frame of your retirement objectives, of your financial freedom objectives. That's why I want to get people to stop thinking about retirement, start thinking about freedom. Because when you think about retirement, it's a very scarcity mindset. And when you think about freedom, it's a very, abundance mindset and productive mindset. And like, how do you want to live life on your terms, show up more powerfully in your life, and make a greater impact in the world? And like, that's what this is all about. And I think that's what this is all about. To me, dude, and we'll end with this, like unless you have something else to say, but like, to me, that's what this whole strategy is all about. That's why I love doing this, because In order for you to really execute like this, you need to show up bigger in your own life. It forces you to become more. And that is a big deal. If we could get people on this plan, finances aside, right? Like, and believe me, the finances will benefit, but finances aside, this world would be a better place because it would force people to show up bigger and more intentionally in their own lives. And that's, to me, that's why I love this.
I love it too. Quick little nugget.
Yeah.
2008, you talked about a boom bust cycle.
Yeah.
And we want to keep this video really tight. But just to give the people watching this some actual stats on what you talked about. In 2008, the market took back. As you know, you described a boom bust cycle. You described long term. We described a bank. We described what a bank looks like. We wanted to talk about tax. So the money coming out of this, as long as you're on the right side of the adjusted cost basis, or in Canada they call it the MTAR, in the U.S. you call it a MEC contract.
Yep.
So as long as you're on the right side of that, and your insurance advisor actually knows what the heck they're doing, they know how to design these things properly. Yeah, the money coming out of it is all tax free. It's not gray area. It's been that way for 250 years. So there's the tax piece. You can just digest that. It's true. 2008, the market took back 33.3%. If your capital was in the market took back. Your money evaporated by a third. What would your retirement look like? What would your opportunity cost? Talk about getting kicked in the opportunity costs. That's a pretty bad one. That's a square shot right between the legs.
Yep.
The whole life insurance people, the people that had their capital in whole life insurance, was still paid probably somewhere in 2008 about 7 or 8%. Do you want to lose 33? And this is just the basic science of the whole thing. You want to lose 33, or do you want to get paid 7 or 8?
But it's not just. I always say too, man. It's not just what your money's earning. It's not that. Let's say it's 5% that they earn, right?
You're totally right.
That's
has
not
nothing to do with it.
The point is, how much is that worth? What can that money now buy for you? Because human behavior is a real thing when it comes to personal finance. Like, in that mode, we all know people that made bad economic decisions, that had to sell assets at discounts. Like, you could buy businesses at cheap prices. Real estate overcorrected. You could buy real estate super cheap. Like, opportunity is just everywhere if you have access to capital and you have a personal reserve of capital you could take advantage of it with. But if you have your life structured like everybody else, you're just going to suffer like everybody else. And that's just the way it is. So anyway, that's awesome, man. This is a lot of fun. I'm so excited we're doing these videos together because it's so much more fun talking with you rather than just like talking to myself. But anyway, guys, if you found value in this video, please smash that like button so the YouTube algorithm will share it out with more people. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell, that way you get notified every time Cole and I bring new content to the channel. And if you are loving this content, make sure the end screen here, we're going to have a great video and a great playlist. Make sure you click on them, continue the education, continue learning, continue growing. If you have anything you need from us, please comment in the comment section below and we will engage with every comment. I promise you that is my commitment. So that is it for now. Have a blessed, inspirational day, and we will talk to you on the next video.